All right, give me a spot. You know my motto, safety first.
They could be dangerous. I think we should call animal control.
Animal control?
To be safe.
Don't worry.
Just...
I got this. It's a new motto.
You don't have to be perfect to be a perfect parent. There are thousands of teens in foster care who don't need perfection. They need you.
Welcome to this edition of Life's Perspective. I'm Mike Miller. Thanks for tuning in today. My special guest from Geneva Hills, Bob Moraine. How you doing?
I'm good, Mike. How are you today?
Oh, fantastic.
Great.
Great weather today. I mean, it's going to be a great weekend, all those things.
Amen to that.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, let's talk a little bit about Bob first. We were talking off air, and we'll talk about how you got involved with Geneva Hills, but you were a youth minister.
Yeah, I've been in youth ministry for the Catholic Diocese of Columbus for, well, over 25 years at this point, and interestingly, my very first assignment was at St. Mark Church here in Lancaster. And it was actually through my work at St. Mark and doing some youth ministry together with Rich Grassel, who was a renowned youth minister at First Presbyterian here in Lancaster. And he is the one who introduced me to Geneva Hills. And then subsequent to that, worked at Seton Parish in Pickerington and been taking kids down Geneva Hills for lots of years.
Rich Grassel used to be a pretty good basketball player, too.
He used to be when he was younger.
Weren't we all? Weren't we all? Let's talk a little bit about Geneva Hills. I know there's several camps we're going to talk about later on, but just talk a little bit about the purpose of Geneva Hills and what your focus is.
Right. Well, Geneva Hills has been around since 1956, when it was first founded, was run for many years by the Presbytery of Scioto Valley, and I think it was about 8 years ago, a private group by the name of the Geneva Hills Group actually purchased it from the Presbytery and runs today as a Christian not-for-profit. And Geneva Hills runs many programs throughout the course of the year, including summer camp, but we are becoming a venue for weddings, for conferences, for retreats, for outdoor education, all kinds of interesting things. But our primary mission is to help all of the people who come to Geneva Hills to grow in their relationship with Christ.
I know we always talk about going to camp and it costs money, but you have scholarships or assistance, I guess, would be the easiest thing to say.
Well, of course, camp does cost money, and we do have campership aid available. It is limited, but we do not ever want to turn a child away to coming to camp because of their inability to pay.
Now, there's several. Let's talk about where is it? How do you get there? Maybe that might be the reviewers are like, I've heard of it, but I've never been there.
Right. Well, it's kind of a hidden gem. Geneva Hills is actually located just south of downtown Lancaster, right off of 33, off Old Logan Road. We're on Blue Valley, so from downtown Lancaster, literally 8 minutes.
Not bad.
Really close.
It's not bad at all. Website, phone numbers, Facebook?
Yes, of course. We're on Facebook at Geneva Hills, or our website is genevahills.com. And let's see, phone number 740-746-8439.
There are camps, I'm reading from the flyer, day camps, residential camps, Leadership Institute, International, and Lancaster Arts Festival camp. Talk a little bit about that.
Right. So we have a wide variety of summer camp experiences for young people, all the way from as young as first grade all the way up through early college. So we're offering a 10-week summer day camp experience for grades 1, 2, and 3, and that runs daily from 9 to 4. We're offering an optional early morning care beginning at 7 and a later afternoon care for those parents who work, who need to drop off their kids earlier or pick them up a little bit later. 10 separate weeks of that. This year it's based on the Disney movies, so if a kid comes for 1 week or 2 weeks or 10 weeks, they're going to have a different experience each week. So a great opportunity for young kids to get outdoors and to be immersed in God's creation. And then, as you point out, we have some residential camps for students grades 4 and 5. We have a 4-night or excuse me, a 4-day, 3-night experience. And then for middle schoolers, grades 6, 7, and 8, a 6-day, 5-night. We are offering a high school Christian Leadership Institute this summer, which I'm really excited about. The whole focus of that is to help high school students learn leadership skills modeled after Christ and looking at how he led and giving them practical skills to be a Christian leader with impact in their schools, their churches, and their community. And then I think finally, our international program, which is full at this point, but we are offering a cultural immersion experience in the Dominican Republic in collaboration with the Mountain Village Project. And it's kind of the first year we've offered that, and looking forward to expanding it next year.
And the Lancaster Arts Festival camp, you're also going to have that?
Right. So as I mentioned already, we have 10 weeks of day camp, and one of those weeks in particular is affiliated with the Lancaster Arts Festival. Geneva Hills has a rich history, long history with the Lancaster Arts Festival, and so students who participate during that week of the Lancaster Arts Festival will be focused on music education and music performance, and then at the end of the week on Saturday, the students will perform at the gazebo in downtown Lancaster.
Fantastic. Now, how did you get involved with Geneva Hills? I mean, going from the youth ministry to wake up one day and say, I'm going to do this.
Right. No, it didn't happen that way. I always say God has a great sense of humor. I never would have dreamt in a million years that I'd actually be working at Geneva Hills, because as I mentioned, it was in 1990 when I first started taking kids myself to Geneva Hills for retreats. And so over the course of the past 25 years or so, as I've been in youth ministry, one of the things that I was involved with was the founding of a summer camp program in the Catholic Church called Catholic Youth Summer Camp. And so took a step away from that about a year and a half ago, and subsequent to some conversations with Jeff Burns, who's the executive director at Geneva Hills, and his wife Christy, who serves as our development director, had the opportunity to come on board to help them to further develop the summer camp program.
How differences you've seen in youth in your years in youth ministry and now with Geneva Hills?
Wow, that's a really good question. There are certain aspects of young people that, of course, are timeless and remain the same. Adolescents will be adolescents, the good, the bad, and the ugly, regardless if they're our age or if they're current teenagers. But I will say this, with regard to matters of faith, I find that young people today are very savvy and very sophisticated in their understanding of their faith and of the church. I also feel that they have a much stronger desire to learn about the truths of the church and the truths of the Christian faith. And I think that that's because we live in a society and a culture today that tends to relativize pretty much everything in matters of morality. And so I think that they're hungering for answers. And so I find that they're seeking a better understanding and a deeper knowledge of the questions of faith.
What drew you to the ministry when you were growing up? Were you just wake up one day and say, Mom, Dad, I'm going to do this?
No, that's not at all how it happened. As a matter of fact, throughout my teenage years, I was always kind of programmed on taking over my family's business, and was kind of groomed for that, the oldest son of the oldest son, and pursued that. And it was actually when I was around 27, I felt unsettled, I felt unhappy. Didn't have any reason to be unhappy according to the world. I mean, I had a great job and was making money and had all those things. But what I came to find out in really praying about that and discerning about it and talking with other folks is that it was other people, and I would say the Holy Spirit working through them, that kind of pointed out to me that where my heart was with young people. And so as a result of some of those conversations, I started to actually look at that more closely and went back to school and got a degree in theology from a high Dominican university in Columbus, and have, as I have already mentioned, spent the past 25 years working with young people.
Now, taking that to Geneva Hills and talking about the camp, Do you sit down with the board and say, these are the kind of outfits we want for, I mean, to talk about these different camps, and we'll talk about it again in a minute, but do you sit down and say, okay, we need to focus here, focus there? Or how does fruition come about for these?
How does that come to happen? Well, first of all, I need to say that Geneva Hills has a long and rich history of offering summer camp programs. But also, you mentioned the board. We did sit down and we needed to kind of relook at the summer camp program and how we could freshen it up and how we could make it more relevant to where young people are today. And so I think that inasmuch as there is a rich history and tradition there, I'm really excited. In fact, we're all excited at Geneva Hills about introducing our summer camp program, which we have recently rebranded. And so the camp program is called Cairo Christian Camps. And of course, the Cairo is that symbol that most of us in the Christian arena are familiar with. The P and the X, which are of course the first two Greek letters of the Word of Christ. And so our logo, if you will, is Christ Himself. And at the same time, we're going to help young people grow in their faith and their understanding of the Christian faith, while also having a great time in God's creation doing outstanding fun activities.
There are a lot here. I know that entering grades 1, 2, and 3, there's movies that The Lion, the Witch, and the Wardrobe, the Lego movie, Alice in Wonderland, Peter Pan, Frozen, Let It Go, The Wizard of Oz, There's No One Like Jesus, Lancaster Festival Camp. And then in the grades entering 4 and 5, kayaking, canoeing.
Right. We have kayaking and canoeing. We have a large pond on the property of Geneva Hills. And first of all, if you have not been to Geneva Hills, you owe it to yourself to come down and see the property. The actual landscape itself is just tremendous. I mean, rock faces and hills and waterfalls and water elements. It's just a beautiful place. I say that it's truly sacred ground. But yeah, great activities. We have a high ropes course. We'll be doing zip lining, Gaga ball.
What is Gaga ball?
Gaga ball, man. See, you're out of it.
Well, Jacob and Tyler probably know, but I don't know.
They probably do. So I like to say that Gaga ball is like dodgeball, but it's in a confined octagonal arena. All right, and the nice thing about Gaga ball is it's fast-paced, it's quick. Anybody can participate in it, regardless of your athletic ability or not. And it plays out, as I mentioned, just like dodgeball, but a little safer. Very. It's not very often anybody's getting hit in the head. So the kids love it. It kind of emerged 3 or 4 years ago. And interestingly, I'm noticing actually a lot of elementary and junior high schools now are actually installing Gaga ball pits, as they're called, on the playgrounds. Yeah.
Well, I've never heard of that. I mean, these guys are laughing at me because I'm old. But in an obstacle course, talk a little bit about that.
Yeah, so we kind of set up our own obstacle course every year with different initiatives that the kids have to make their way through. And of course, it's a competition. We'll set up 2 different groups, so sort of a relay, if you will, to make your way through the obstacle course. Whether that's crawling under ropes or through tires or going through a great big pool of mud and then ultimately getting covered with some tempera paints. Let's just say it's not a clean activity, but immensely fun.
Boat building regatta?
Yeah, so on the last day of camp, we have, if you will, a boat race across the pond. And so during the course of the week, different groups of students will rotate through activities, and one of the activities is the boat building. So they'll have the opportunity, the first group, to kind of start to build the boat, and then the next group will come and add on to it, and perhaps maybe even disassemble what the other group started. And so by the end of the week, they have this configuration of sorts that we call boats, and then the different groups race those across the pond to see whose shall be most fit. Some make it to the other side and some don't.
Well, I can understand that. It sounds like a lot of activity. What do you say to the people who say, I don't want to be there. It's not what. It's not for me. I mean, how do you explain that to you?
Well, first of all, it is hard to explain. Summer camp is an experience that I think every young person should have. It accomplishes many things. First of all, you young people out there, it gets you away from mom and dad, it gets you away from home, gets you away from the routine of everyday life. I also think it's a great opportunity for young people to meet and to make new friends outside of, the usual arenas of school and neighborhood where most kids, of course, make their friends. It's also an opportunity to kind of to grow an appreciation for the environment, for God's creation. It's an opportunity to try new activities outside of your comfort zone. It's an opportunity, of course, to take a break today from all of the world of technology. There are some people out there, some young people who might be absolutely distressed when I say that we don't allow them to have their cell phones or any type of technology at camp. And it is because we're opposed to technology. I mean, I'm as addicted to my cell phone as anyone. But it's kind of a unique opportunity to take a break from all of that and to engage in relationship. Parents who are listening to us today might be really happy to hear about that detox that we kind of offer as a result of camp. But ultimately, I think it helps young people to kind of get to know themselves better, certainly others, and to take this opportunity to kind of grow in their relationship with God as well.
You talk a little bit about the trip, the Dominican Republic. I know that's another trip for kids going in 11th and 12th grade. Talk a little bit about that.
Well, all of us are called to serve others, and we, of course, can serve right in our own homes and families, which is where we should always be serving, or in our schools and communities. But there are those who are called, I think, to missions that are bigger and broader. And it's important, I think, particularly for older adolescents, to kind of get a bigger worldview and to develop an appreciation for what for other cultures, and in particular those cultures that live in extreme poverty. And so this is an opportunity to go and to serve, but more so to learn about a different culture, to make a real difference. In this particular case, we're working with the poor in the Dominican Republic in terms of building small homes, small modest homes. And so to actually walk away from that experience knowing that you've contributed something, but perhaps more so, what you get, and also in how you encounter Christ in those people that we're serving, as well as the people that you're serving alongside of.
Have you had the chance to go abroad to do that? Or?
I have, yeah. I've had the pleasure, actually, of taking two groups of students to Guatemala and Central America a couple of times, and I can remember from my first experience, which was my first trip, actually, it was life-changing for me. And very profound, but it wasn't so much about what I gave or what I was able to do, but what I felt that I received from those folks. In this particular instance, the indigenous Mayan in the upper mountains of Guatemala. But the other thing is that the land in the area of Central America is so beautiful. I tell my wife all the time that I actually want to retire to Guatemala. For some reason, the Lord's just laid on my heart that that's just where I'm supposed to be. But I think that it is truly life impacting, if you will. I know I use resources differently, especially water and things of those nature.
So if Bob Moraine wasn't doing this, what would you be doing?
Wow. That's a good question, Mike. I wasn't prepared for that.
That's why they pay me the big bucks.
Right. That's why they pay you the big bucks. Aside from my work at Geneva Hills, ironically, I have this other life in real estate. And, as a husband and father of 6,
Wow. All boys, girls?
I have 4 boys and 2 girls. And so, I very much enjoyed doing that work. And I think it's because, in fact, in that business, you're helping people and you're interacting with them. So that is, that other piece of who I am and what I do. But frankly, I can't imagine my life not working in some way, shape, or form related to my faith, helping to draw other people closer to Christ, and young people being a part of that equation. I think that's just who God's called me to be.
When you were growing up, was there someone that you idolized or followed, or I mean, is there somebody that just, other than God himself, but I mean, is there somebody that you looked at and said, boy, I'd like to be like that?
Well, I'll tell you what, you know, I was blessed to be surrounded by a lot of good people when I was growing up. You know, my parents, my extended family, all people of faith. I was blessed with the opportunity to attend private schools. But I would say that when I look at my life now and what I'm doing, I would have to say it's probably my grandmother who really had the greatest influence. Now, at the time, I had no idea, of course, but you know, my grandmother was one of those people, every time I was hanging out with her, she was dragging me to church. And I do mean dragging. It wasn't something that I looked forward to or liked. I didn't fight it because it was grandma, but I think there was a seed planted there with all of the many experiences that I had. She was the church organist, and so, you know, we were at church all the time. And I think I kind of got a unique perspective, an insider's view, you know, behind the scenes, as a result of her taking me along. So I think that God was preparing me from a very young age by you know, having grandma drag me around to church.
Yeah, absolutely. The plans for Geneva Hills, I mean, where do you, I guess, took the blinders off and said, gee, you can do anything, unlimited funding? What would you like to?
Wow, unlimited funding. That would be a wonderful thing. You know, I will say this. I think that the potential of Geneva Hills for the greater good of this community is huge. We have seen over the course of just this past year so many different groups coming in and utilizing the facilities and the land that we have, and we want to invite people to come down to Geneva Hills and to utilize our spaces and our grounds. Whether that's families just looking for a weekend getaway, we have, you know, cottages, we have cabins, we have, you know, large groups. So, you know, we often think about, well, it's a place to go for retreats. It is that, of course, but Boy Scout groups, Girl Scout groups. Amazingly, we're hosting a lot of weddings these days, and we are indeed. And you know, we hadn't really been promoting or marketing that, but people have found us. We have a great chef at Geneva Hills, and he's an amazing cook, and so we're also doing catering, and both on-site and off-site, so lots of cool things there. And so we're looking forward to a very fruitful and bright future.
Is the camp open year-round, or is it closed? What's the
camp is open year-round, so we run year-round activities and events. And you know, the funny thing is that actually the fall is probably our busiest time of the year, and I think again because of the natural beauty that affords itself in southern Ohio. And the winter as well. Lots and lots of groups come down and utilize the facilities, and we also do a lot of outdoor education. So a lot of school districts utilize us for the outdoor education programs with schools bringing down their middle school kids.
Do you ever have corporate retreats or business retreats or things
We
like
do
that?
indeed. There are organizations, and of course you've mentioned it, you're probably familiar, but a lot of executive level teams in for-profit or not-for-profit organizations often need to get away and to retreat, whether that is to grow in relationship with each other better, whether that's to do planning. Oftentimes groups will come down and to get away because they have to, you know, work on their budget and want to nail that out and or hammer that out, I should say, and you know, in 3 or 4 days' time. And then also, you know, some of the activity elements that we have just lend themselves to team building. So some organizations might recognize that, you know, a particular team in a particular department, they need them to kind of grow together a little bit more so they can be more effective in their work, and so we can help facilitate that.
Do people need to make an appointment to come down to take a tour, or what's the, just show up, or
well, here's the thing. Anyone is welcome down anytime. The office is typically open between 9 and 4 every day, Monday through Friday. You are welcome to come and stop down. If you come in to the property without an appointment, stop at the Welcome Center. You just sign in your vehicle there, and you can kind of make yourself at home. Of course, you cannot go into the facilities without permission. But folks oftentimes will come down and fish in the pond,
Sure.
or just kind of hike around. We have 10 miles of hiking trails.
Wow.
So plenty of room to walk around. And if you want to call and set up an appointment, we would be happy to show you around.
If Bob Moraine, what do you do in your spare time? I mean,
What-
I mean, you got 6 kids. You're doing the camp. I mean, you're doing.
Well,
what do you do to relax?
Bob Moraine sleeps in his spare time, and that's about all there's time for. I love the outdoors. I love when I went to Ohio State, I pursued a degree in agriculture and horticulture. So I love landscaping and playing out in the dirt. So that's usually what I'm doing at home when I'm not involved with my kids' activities, kind of tinkering around in the dirt.
That's a lot of stuff to do. It's a lot of activities to do. Well, I tell you, it's been great talking with you. Again, website, phone number, we can give people. I'm sure JT's going to get up on the screen for us, but
Sure.
One more time, phone
Yeah,
number.
so our phone number at Geneva Hills is 740-746-8439. And you can go to our website, Geneva Hills, that's GENEVAHILLS.com.
Fantastic. Well, it's been great having you here. It
Thanks,
really
Mike.
has. Learned a lot about Geneva Hills, and hopefully we'll get some people to show up. Do you have a lot of people from outside Central Ohio show up, or is it mainly Central Ohio?
Actually, probably our largest client base actually is probably coming from the Columbus area, but we do have groups who on a very regular basis. I'm thinking of one group in particular. I can't think of the name of the church offhand, unfortunately, but it's from Amesville, Ohio, and they have been coming to Geneva Hills, I think, for something like 46 years.
Wow.
They bring a group of folks with learning disabilities and other different kinds of handicaps down to Geneva Hills every summer. So there are groups that come from all over to utilize the gift that Geneva Hills is.
Well, that's fantastic. Again, it's been great having you here. It really has.
Thank you, Mike.
Thanks for tuning in to this edition of Life Perspective. I'm Mike Miller, and remember, until we meet again, let's make a difference.
That's low. That's low. That's low.